Disco Elysium is a very special game. I of course haven't played all the games in the world, and there's definitely a lot of critical ones that are still on my backlog, but I haven't really come across a game quite like this one before. After hearing some very vague and slightly confused praise about the game from various places around the internet, I decided to see for myself what had people so wondrously distraught. And upon starting the game, I was immediately identifying with that whole distraught part of that last sentence. Because in a dark void, I was accosted by the player character's reptilian brain.
You don't have to do anything anymore. Ever. Never. Ever. Never, ever, ever, baby.
And was told about the tiny monkeys fighting on the giant ball. And I just sat there like, what? The whole conversation that played out before me was so unexpected and left me with so much confusion that I really had no idea what I was in for.
I'm in danger!
So upon exiting the pale, I was greeted with the pale cheeks of a man who was really just fully living in his trash era. And while yes, I was once again in a state of bewilderment, it did set a solid foundation for the journey that I was about to embark on. Because over the next 35 plus hours I spent on my first playthrough, I found myself getting more and more invested in the extremely well-developed lore of the world, the fantastically written, annoying, and vile characters, the ever-present and engaging mystery that stood before me, and the investment in not only what would become of the main character, but also who I would make him. Disco Elysium is a game that's best experienced with as little knowledge of what it is as possible. So much of it revolves around you and your player character discovering the things going on around you together. This is so much so that I have to refer to the player character as player character because even saying his name would be a spoiler.
You realize he's waiting for your name. This is your chance to come up with a really good name for yourself. Get creative. Conceptualize.
Hi, I'm Paul.
So now, this is kind of one of those rock in a hard place moments because obviously this is a video about why I think you should give the game a shot and what makes the game good. But when talking about a game like this, even tiny details about certain things can really affect the way you interact with it. So if you've seen anything about this game that has piqued your interest, I recommend that you just go ahead and try it. Disco Elysium is very good. Definitely not a game for everyone. However, please be warned that this game does deal with many sensitive topics. But anyway, I'll try not to really spoil anything beyond the basic plot of the game, as this is more or less just an unpaid, unasked for advertisement for the game done by me. But I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this video will contain spoilers just in case. Disco Elysium follows the story of a cop who's been tasked with investigating the report of a dead body and finding out who or what unalived it. The problem, however, is that once again, you've woken up pale cheeks up.
That is fucking disgusting.
With no recollection of who you are, what you're doing, and without knowledge of various aspects of the world around you.
You owe me money. What are you, a philosopher?
And it's very quickly and tragically expressed to you through your environment and the very first conversation that you can have just outside your door that this character that you're playing has been through some really excruciatingly painful things and has ended up in a very dark place.
Life gets hard, but we go on.
Whatever these things were essentially led him to an extreme mental break. Talk about top 10 moments that broke me, am I right? But the game really does set the tone for the various dark elements that are present throughout the entire game. The game deals with all of these topics and more. So while this game does have a lot of lighthearted, silly, and even goofy moments, it's really not a game to be taken lightly. But anyway, the psychological breaking of the main character and subsequent amnesia that followed is what allows you to rebuild him in the way that you see fit. you are his guide, and you can choose to lead him down a path of self-improvement or self-sabotage. You can let him feed off of his delusions.
You're a big dick cop, Dick Mullen, Salam Rocky Bayi, badass on the edge disco cop. Time to recede into a ludicrous fantasy world. Here we go. Camera, lights.
Or sink into nihilism. You can make him the most compassionate person you've ever met, or make him the most selfish, uncaring person that you wish you'd never met.
I'm not mad, it's just you were so drunk and so emotional all the time, and then the skewer thing happened.
And you can push him in the direction of various other paths and everything in between. Your ability to push him in these various directions, as well as navigate through the investigation, being predicated on the skills and traits that you give him. In most video game RPGs, skills and traits usually function around the idea of doing things in combat. Upgrade your strength to hit harder and use the big boy hammers. Higher speed usually means that you can attack first, level up and unlock a new spell or ability, right? And there are plenty of variations of this kind of formula. But Disco Elysium is not a game about combat. It's about being a detective, finding clues, and talking to people. So as a result, it takes far more influence from tabletop RPGs such as D&D. And because of that, Disco Elysium gets to be a bit more unique and creative when it comes to its skills and abilities. As you start the game, you're prompted to allocate points into core attributes. This is similar to the special system from the Fallout series. The 4 attributes of Disco Elysium are intellect, which contains skills related to knowledge and intelligence; psyche, which pertains to more emotional and feeling skills; physique, which deals with body strength, physical perception, and physical tolerance; and lastly, motorics. Either way, that basically deals with dexterity and perception. That summarization of the attributes is pretty general, as there are plenty of skills under these attributes that don't fit quite so neatly. Like savoir-faire makes sense under motorics, I guess. I mean, it makes sense because if you... The amount of points that you allocate to these different categories will determine how many times you can level up the different skills within that attribute. For example, if you were to give your character a 5 in motorics, you would be able to upgrade your hand-eye coordination 5 times. Whereas if you have a 1 in your physique, you would only be able to upgrade your shivers 1 time.
All around me are familiar faces.
So if you haven't played Disco Elysium before, you're probably thinking,
Wait a minute.
sir, you said unique and creative. That literally sounds like every video game I've ever played ever. You literally just mentioned Fallout. And first of all, you're right. Second of all, shut up. Because that's not the unique part. The unique parts come from the skills themselves, because your skills will talk to you.
Hey. Psst. Yes, you. Word on the street is you're ready to start building communism again.
The main character has experienced a severe mental breakdown, and as a result, not everything is quite right in the old noodle. And because that's the case, your different skills are essentially the main character's personality traits and function almost as if they're split personalities that will speak to you and alert you to various different things going on throughout your conversations, as well as within the environment. They will present you with different ways to act and react to all the various things going on around you. For example, if you're talking to a suspect and you have a good level of psyche, the empathetic part of your brain may alert you to how stressed out that person is and warn you not to push them any further.
Push Tommy and it will break his heart and his spirit. Don't expect you to be pals.
Whereas if you're talking to someone who disrespects you, the authoritative part of your brain may take issue with that and demand that you let them know who's in charge.
Slap the cuffs on her.
All the while, your electrochemistry just wants you to take all the drugs.
Be still, my beating heart. It's amphetamine. Sweet amphetamine.
Like all the drugs. Each of these different skills have their own personalities and agendas, and they'll try to push you into doing things that may help or hurt you.
You should lick that stain off the counter. Yeah, man. Let's get wild. Lick it.
As a result, they'll affect the things you learn, how good you are at doing various things, how you feel about the world, how you navigate through it, as well as what you'll uncover in it. Because along with alerting you to various things, certain dialogue options or events will only be selectable by passing skill checks. So, say if you have the option to hit someone, you'll likely need to pass a physical instrument check where the higher that skill, the greater chance of being able to pass that check. But I mean, that's pretty standard basic stuff. However, if you want to go beyond basic and get a little fierce, you can step up your fashion. Throughout the game, you can find different pieces of clothes that you can switch between while playing, some of which you can buy, some of which you can blatantly steal, and others you may just find in the garbage. But aside from just being able to express your style, these different articles of clothing will give you bonuses or nerfs to certain skills. So if it comes to a time where you need to lie and you want to be a little extra and get dramatic, you'll be happy when you remember that you picked up that mesh tank top.
Nice.
Alongside creating your cute little outfits, another way to grant small buffs and nerfs to your skills is through your character's thoughts. During the game, after having certain conversations or witnessing certain events, the main character will go down an internal line of thought that can be pondered upon in your thought cabinet. These thoughts can range anywhere from trying to understand advanced race theory to just trying to remember where your house is.
By the way, where is home? The address is coming up blank, and this place sure isn't it. Entertain the thought when you get the time. Maybe being a hobo and a cop has its advantages.
Going on these thought journeys is a choice, and deciding to ponder on these different questions will take a certain amount of time in-game and likely leave you with a debuff in the meantime. However, after enough time passes, you'll come to an understanding on whatever topic was in your head, like a melody that you can't keep out that's got you singing like na 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 every day. And once your iPod is no longer stuck on replay, your dedication to thinking through these issues will provide you with the removal of the debuff first off, as well as a buff to another skill. Getting these little buffs through your thought cabinet as well as your clothes is important because you really don't want to fail checks. Of course, failing checks will either halt your progression or just change the direction you have to take during your investigation. But also, more unfortunately, failing checks just often makes you look real dumb.
Face it, Sonny, you're a failure!
Alongside embarrassing you so much that you wish you never picked up the game in the first place, these moments of failure can affect your health and morale. In Disco Elysium, there are two kinds of health systems. The first is your standard health that you would find in pretty much any other game. But there's also a second and more unique health type, that being your morale. During the course of the game, different situations may cause you to take damage. Sometimes it may be due to failing a skill check, and other times it may be caused just by taking normal actions or going down certain conversation paths. Health is obviously affected by any physical damage that you take. When it reaches 0,
You feel something in your chest, an unnatural pressure.
well, you die.
Cop suffers final heart attack.
However, more interestingly, your morale can take a hit when things have a negative impact on your character mentally.
You're not a revolutionary. You're drunk.
And there's a lot in this world that can really take a toll on him mentally. However, as a result of morale being tied to the things that affect your character mentally, events or actions that have a positive effect on him can also boost his morale.
It is an unbelievably satisfying sound, filling you with a belief in your own body.
Keeping your morale up is just as important as keeping up your standard health, because if you completely lose morale, you basically give up your job and life, and that too is a game over.
Cop gives up the detective genre for social realism.
All of these different systems give Disco Elysium a great amount of replayability. I've played through Disco Elysium 4 times, and each time I got a wildly different experience. Different skills granted me access to certain places earlier. The lack of certain skills led me to not being able to find certain pieces of information that really helped me out on my first playthrough. Trying new things led to me hitting unique game overs through dying, and I found new dialogue, items, and conversations each time I played. These gameplay systems really put on display how dense the game is with content. There's so much to discover, and every aspect of the game is rich with so much detail and quality that it's really actually mind-blowing. It's even more impressive when you consider that Disco Elysium is this independent studio first and only game. The setting, the characters, and the mystery at play are all so well developed and intertwined, and there are so many different ways you can experience it. The game takes place in the district of Martinaise in the city of Revachol. Martinaise is a run-down, impoverished district that has been through it all. Revolution, drug trading, civil unrest, and so much more. And well, it looks bad. Not artistically, obviously, because the art style and animations are amazing, but looks bad in the sense that there are bullet holes and impact craters from warfare all over the place. The intense political, philosophical, and ethical ideals at play within the world of Elysium have not only created a district with an extensive history, but also one that's been left to its own devices, having to fend for itself. This is the perfect environment for crime and, of course, murder to arise. As you roam the streets and actively bother citizens with your, let's be kind and call it wacky behavior, you will uncover various secrets that are hidden within the walls of Martinaise. The district has many secret herbs and spices that are there for you to taste and put you into a food coma. From a seemingly haunted building to a mysterious locked door in the back of the hostile kitchen that no one has ever entered, the hidden flavors of Martinaise are all important and are all in one way or another connected to your case, whether it be directly through providing evidence or a lead, or more indirectly by reinforcing the themes and issues of the world at large. Combing the information-littered streets will only grant you more delicious ingredients that will shape the taste of your playthrough, some of which won't even register on your palate until the end of the game, or even not until your second playthrough. And for the most part, the link between you and those delicious flavors of Disco Elysium are the characters.
Happy shopping, officer! Everything's cool here. Everything's cool. The goods are cool, the customers are cool, the place is cool. And one more thing, officer.
They're your chefs, if you will.
Let him cook!
You're very cool.
Don't worry, I'm done with all the food analogies and metaphors and whatnot. Every character you talk to reflects the themes of the game or gives you insight into the type of world that you're playing in. A woman investigating a strange phenomenon in an abandoned church, a gate guardian who has a very interesting set of beliefs.
The influence of the ham sandwich race is waning.
And the absolute worst children that you have ever met.
Right in the dick, Kuno! Get him right in the dick!
I hate these children so much.
Get out of here before the Kuno beats the shit out of you.
Yeah, that's right. Drag your fat ass out of here, fat boy, before Kuno fucks you.
But I also love them so much too.
Kuno doesn't fucking care.
Every character that you meet feels so unique and detailed, and you can easily find yourself sidetracked from your original goal just so you can hear what they have to say or learn more about them as people. The depth and detail extends beyond just gaining context and insight. These characters will also often give you side objectives that will likely lead you to interacting with characters with equally interesting personalities or stories. These side quests and characters tying back directly or thematically to the mystery at hand. And while there is a very colorful cast of characters that inhabit the streets of Martinaise, the most important, impactful, and arguably the best characters are the ones that are connected to the central narrative. Once again, I've been keeping things very vague and still will, but that makes it very difficult to talk about really any of these central characters and really everything that I've already been talking about. But I will say that these characters are truly amazing. They will inspire your emotions, bend and twist your perception of the case at hand, send you down routes of discovery and loss, all while having amazing personalities, interesting histories and backstories, interesting connections, complex motivations, and so much more. And while he might not necessarily embody all of those aspects, I think one of the greatest examples of these great characters is none other than your partner, Kim Kitsuragi. Met at the beginning of the game, he's your main guide through the overwhelming world of Disco Elysium. He will dispense knowledge and wisdom on all manner of topics.
Remnants from the revolution. These are over half a century old.
Information pertaining to being a police officer, a more coherent understanding of the things that people are trying to tell you.
First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments. That gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus. Good luck is only kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world, including your own.
What the ma'am means is that the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government.
He also often acts as your moral and ethical compass that you can look to for guidance, or turn a blind eye to so as to live by your own rules.
Officer, this is very far from normal police conduct. Get yourself together.
And over the course of the game, as you talk to him, see how he reacts to others, see how he reacts to your shenanigans.
I just saw you climb the ladder. You just climbed it like a regular person.
And as you proceed with the case, you get to see what lies beneath the surface of his stoic, by-the-books cop mentality, and learn who he really is as a person, what the life of a cop means to him and what it's done to him. And all the while, if you choose to, you can have the main character grow a magnificent bond with him. Or
when you said before that you were down with racism, was it meant in earnest? Or were you just trying to win his confidence?
You can even destroy it entirely. I don't know, I wouldn't do that though, because I think if you do that, you're probably a bad person, because Kim is wonderful and the best person ever, and I don't really want him to ever get hurt. And if you hurt him, I might have to come find you, and you don't want that because I don't know. But I really wish he'd be my best friend in real life and look after me and keep me safe. Kim has become one of my favorite video game characters, and I really appreciated him so much while playing through Disco Elysium. For some, that's definitely not gonna be the case, and they may just see him as a wet blanket, but I think there's a lot to Kim, and his effect on me and my character as I played through the game was something that I'll never forget, because the relationship that you can form with Kim can truly be heartwarming, if you let it, that is. But that ability to use your choices to guide the protagonist through this world and shape what he does and who he is really key to this game. I'm going to start talking about the main character now, so there's going to be some degree of spoilage from here on out. I'll still try to keep them minor and try to resist them altogether, but this is just another warning. This man is tragic, his mind is a very scary place to be, and he's stuck in it all the time. Having purged his mind of most vital information, it is empty yet constantly filled with the chatter of conflicting motivations that don't always have his best interest at heart.
This is your chance. He's talking. Rip into him with a punch and catch him off guard. No, there's a peaceful solution. You could internalize Measurehead's race theory. He would take you as one of his own.
Delusions ring in his ears, beckoning him to cop superstardom as things that have zero business speaking to him refuse to shut up.
Let's bail! Time to push the eject button! Sounds like a responsibility. You don't like those.
All the while, he's constantly teetering on the edge of the void, with the stressors of life and his job constantly pushing him further towards the edge. It was genuinely very difficult for me to play as him. The way that he radiates such extreme self-loathing, deep and unexplained pain.
I think you screamed that you didn't want to be this type of animal anymore.
Sounds like you were in some real fundamental pain there, muscle man.
Alongside with his amnesia that often without your input just makes him look like a fool to all those that he encounters, can really be hard to experience. For example, at the beginning of the game, after having woken up from your forgotten past, you realize that basically all of your policing doodads are missing.
You mean you don't have a badge?
And as you relay this to your new partner and watch as he tries his very best to hide his disappointment in you, you will get the optional task of reporting these things missing to your precinct. And if you choose to do this, it's one of the most humiliating things a game has ever forced me to do. And I mean, I guess it didn't force me, I chose to do it, but I didn't know how bad it would be. The way everyone at his precinct just shows him the most disrespect and disbelief in him and his ability to just function as a person is so disheartening, and the way they laugh and ridicule him is so embarrassing.
Mac, come here! You've got to hear this. Dick Mullen lost his badge.
What's going on?
Super Cop here lost his badge.
He lost his what?
And the way that their words not so subtly, just blatantly obviously allude to the fact that this kind of behavior isn't exactly new or exclusive to his newfound smooth-brainedness is just very telling of how tragic this man's life really is and has been. All the while your new partner is just standing right behind you, and you're just standing there hoping that he can't hear what's going down on this call, and you're just looking at him like,
I'll leave you alone forever now. Thanks.
like, dear God, stop, I'm trying my best. The way I see it, there's a very clear separation between the character and you as the player. I never felt quite like I was inhabiting him so much as I was a steady hand guiding him down a certain path. Almost like the tiny angel or devil on his shoulder, or even another voice in his head. One of the reasons I feel like that is because every option that I could have him say was bad and nothing that I would ever say or do.
They let almost anyone be a police officer.
A glib remark. Don't let it stand. Assert yourself.
Be assertive!
By being flirtatious.
Not insertive!
But mainly because so much of who this character is and can be is dictated by his past and the world around him. While I played through Disco Elysium, I very much wanted to set this man down a path of bettering himself. I'm the type that always plays the good route in games, and I genuinely find it very hard to bring myself to do bad things even though it's just a video game. So I decided that I would do my best to bring him out of whatever doom spiral that he found himself in as soon as his cheeks greeted my eyeballs. And that was mentally harder than I had anticipated. Every conversation was just filled with the absolute worst options to say, and I often struggled to pick the dialogue choices because they all seemed bad. Like, so many times the options were like, look like an absolute nutter butter dipped in milk, so it's a little soft but not falling apart, aka delicious, but most importantly crazy.
What kind of question is that?
2, look like the most insensitive jerk imaginable who would stomp out a baby just to get a taste of some alcohol. Or 3, just look dumb. So very, very dumb. And I'm just sitting there like,
come on, man.
The game is constantly prodding at you to discover yours/his political ideologies and berating you if you try to stay neutral.
Someone's seen all sorts of wild ideas pop off and thought, I'll take the boring one. The regular, please. The brown.
And as much as it hurts my squiddly spooch,
Oh, my squeedly spooch!
this nature of his is what connects all the pieces of this game and hooks you as the player into it. His empty-headedness is what allows you as the player to ask questions about the world, your profession, and the simple things that anyone else living in Disco Elysium would just know. You and your character have the world and the streets of Martinaise fleshed out together, so you're always on the same page about the things that you know. His often outlandish, lacking in common sense, and borderline pathetic actions are often very disarming and allow for him to get past the guard of many of the Martinaise inhabitants and learn more about them and discover the information that they hold. His mentality also leading him to find creative and outside of the box solutions to various problems. But at the end of the day, for me, the crux of the player and character connection is the slow discovery about who he was in the past and the choices that you make about who he will become in the future. I wanted so badly for him to recover as much as possible, so that's really what connected me to him. Whenever possible, dialogue choices became an effort in fighting against his vices.
You should pick that fat, juicy cigarette butt from the tray, light it up, and smoke the living shit out of it.
Self-assurance, and trying not to look like a crazy person, all while trying to keep him from falling apart while trying to solve a murder and trying to leave Martinaise and the people who live there just a little bit better than when I found them. And for those who have and will someday play Disco Elysium, I assume that they will find their biggest connection to the game with him as well. The draw may be discovering his past, messing with people, or seeing how much of a train wreck that they can actually make him. However, whichever path you take, his fate is something that you can't help but want to see through to the end. As a result, every choice or action will keep you extremely invested as you guide him through his investigation. And that's not to say that the investigation itself won't keep you invested, because it will. The case of a man found dead behind a hostel will lead you through the open streets and depths of the district of Martinaise. Interviewing citizens and suspects will have you drawing your own connections and conclusions, finding motives, and stumbling upon new information that will lead you to new clues, and give you more context to the inevitable reveal of the truth behind your case. The ever-evolving mystery and elusive answer to the question of who killed this man will have you racking your brain and keep you entrenched in the streets of Martinaise until you find the answer. All mysteries are about questions and answers. Whether it be mystery novels, movies, or video games, their job is to give you information and get you asking questions. Why was that person in that location when they weren't even supposed to be off work yet? Why is there a half-eaten sandwich in the bathroom? How did they even get bread for that sandwich when the bread factory had a yeast explosion and all the bakers in town have been on strike ever since?
That's suspicious.
Right?
That's weird.
And when it comes down to Disco Elysium, it's no different. Disco Elysium provides you with information and gets you asking endless questions. Some as simple as, what would happen if I say this? Some more important like, who left these footprints? And some more concerning like, is this dead body really talking to me?
Communism.
The case at hand, the streets of Martinaise, the world of Disco Elysium, the game itself are all very intricate and detailed. Every nook and cranny, every character, and every conversation is so dense with information. As a result, it's easy to find yourself asking question after question, questions that will connect you to the world around you, questions that will engage you with the inhabitants of Martinaise, questions about the mysterious case that stands before you, and questions about the main character whose fate you control and past you will discover. For its amazing, dense, and engaging writing, for its unique and well thought out gameplay systems that provide you with great replay value, for the experience of solving a mystery that has been interwoven with the history and themes of the world of Disco Elysium, and for being able to guide this tragic man through the pain of the past onto his future, I can't recommend Disco Elysium enough. Hello. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone who got this far into the video for watching it. Honestly, I think Disco Elysium is an amazing game, and there really isn't anything that I can say to do this game justice. I don't think this video even comes close to doing this game justice, but I really just wanted to talk about it and hopefully inspire some people to play it. I also know that right now there was some crazy legal battle going on with this game. I don't know anything about that really, so I'm actually gonna look into it after this video, but I still just think that this is an amazing game and that you should play it. So once again, just thank you for watching. The song in the background is a remix of one of the OSTs that I did myself, and if you want to just listen to that, there will be a link in the description for it. But yeah, I just wanted to once again say thank you for watching.